Well, Batman has returned at least to the PC community now, freshly patched and updated from Rocksteady with some more options to allow a broader range of PCs to run the game. Welcome Gotham brethren to my final verdict on Batman Arkham Knight. It must be stressed that this is a game that is very, very power hungry, coming from Unreal Engine 3 that has never been shy on its power requirements and performance, more specifically its love of CPU resource, and as a great job as Rocksteady have done, that requirement has not changed here. This game needs a decent CPU to run anywhere near well. It is the only engine that I'm more surprised to see no tearing than tearing in. The first thing I like to eliminate is tearing, as it really truly ruins a game's presentation, IQ and enjoyment to me. I absolutely detest it and I'm very good at picking it up. Even minor top quarter tearing stands out a mile to me. So with this engine it has to be a tolerated level unless you have much hardware headroom or do not mind a 30 FPS cap. On the console release, luckily this is not a huge issue. It really only presents itself in driving or Batmobile moments, and outside of these it pretty much holds a rock solid 30 FPS with some very minor tearing when loading. So long as no streaming is needed, the engine's big Achilles heel, with far too many games to mention that demonstrate this, and Rocksteady should be applauded for how they have pushed the engine and performance on the game as a whole for streaming and an open world on PS4 and Xbox One. No doubtly greatly helped by the unified RAM allocation, not an option on PC. It is also one of the best multi-threaded engines this generation. Again, tip-hat to the team, as it would have been needed to squeeze performance as good as they got from the Jaguar cores, and it uses all 8 cores extensively on my 8350 machine and takes no prisoners. But check out my detailed head-to-head at launch to learn more. Here we are taking a further look at the now updated PC release across my range of PC specs to give everyone a fair idea of how well it will run on each machine. I tested the A10 7850K APU last time and it really struggles to run this game, even dropping to 1280 and 720 and all settings to low or off, and it could run the game around 10 to 15 range, so completely unplayable most of the time. Now you can at least get a 20th level, so it can be played, but really I cannot recommend this game for anyone with that spec of machine or around it. It's just too power hungry. Moving up to my entry level gaming machine of a quad core A10 APU paired with 16GB of DDR3 RAM and an Nvidia 750 Ti. Being a GameWorks game, it could outperform my mid-range machine, but here this is not the case, and the Nvidia machine suffers more. The first thing for all these machines is you have to set textures at low. Consoles run at least normal, which needs 3GB of RAM on cards, and here that is not a lie. High asks for 4GB, and this really bumps up mipmaps and specular and normals further away from your view and up close. If consoles run this at normal or high, it is very hard to spot the difference and is negligible between the two. Certainly up close, the textures are exactly the same on the highest setting on PC as they are on console. Low does suffer from lower quality that can be seen in close-up views and the game's real-time cinematics, but it's not a showstopper and worth the sacrifice to stop the still unplayable stuttering that comes with these higher quality textures that need to be streamed from hard drive, system RAM to VRAM. The buffer method and bandwidth needed is far more than it receives here, and the result is long stutters down to single digit performance on both machines. Normal to high really needs a 3GB or more card, as I say, and we can look at my high-end machine of the GTX 970 shortly. With all other settings at the same as console, leave off the Nvidia extras, as aside the fog, which is particle-based volumetric smoke, they really had no great benefit aside huge performance dips for no reason, and on these machines we have no room to spare. With all these set, we can test out how it performs and comparing to PS4 running at the same 1080 and Xbox One, which runs all the same visual settings, only at the reduced resolution of 1600 by 900. We can see that in like-for-like interior moments with no heavy action, both PCs can run at the same, aside obviously the lower textures, at a stable 30. In fact, the 7870 pushes nearer to the 60 level at this point. Unlocked and VSync off allows a 750 machine to hit around 40 at points, but these are rare, and the cap to 30, as shown with my AMD machine, is the better option. But once we get into more action and driving, we see both PCs still do not hold a stable 30, with dips down to low 20s for prolonged periods, and even sub that on the 750 machine. To be clear, this is a CPU issue mostly on this machine, as the game will use all 8 cores on my other AMD machine when it can. Loading is a good example, but streaming is just as intensive. But when we see these dips and cutscenes, they are all GPU related, and with the usage staying at 100% on both, and even the A10 has room to spare on the CPU. Here, with a particular bandwidth heavy scene, we see the 750 locked to 20 for a period before returning. Note, this is VSync on in this sequence. I tested again, and with it off, you only gain around 1 to 2 FPS more, with pretty much every frame torn. These constant dips under 30 and for prolonged periods in action and cutscenes does still affect the enjoyment on this machine at times, but when inside it can be more stable, with the cap to 30 better implemented from the menu or chosen driver panel suiting these more. To be as thorough as I can and a GPU related issue, I've dropped the resolution to 1600 by 900 and it pretty much eradicates these dips under 30. But if you have the choice, the AMD rig is much better than the Nvidia one due to its CPU allocation and a better GPU, but I cannot recommend both of them much over the console releases, as I'm afraid if you have the choice, the AMD machine is around the same level as the PS4, so this machine with the same 30 cap should be fine now. Let's be clear, the consoles still do dip in the driving sections down to low 2060s or on the Xbox One 23s, but again these are much rarer and they only happen in the driving sections, and this is not solved on the PC release, just showing how well the team implemented the code and how stressful the engine actually is. The game can be picked up on consoles for around £20. It is even more of a bargain now than it was when it came out, and is still as enjoyable as before, and such an absolutely stunning looking game. The PC release can be picked up for a few pounds less, which also helps. But all is not lost on PC, as we still have my high-end 4690K paired with Nvidia's GTX 970, which even at launch put in a better showing, as it should, than both consoles. You can also add in the volumetric fog and set textures to match consoles now, and also increase resolution over 1080 if you desire, and keep at the 30 rate. Or leave as is and run a near 60 FPS game now that does not suffer from the stutter or heavy dips, as the textures are all safely streamed into the bigger pool of VRAM. 3.5 gigs of GDDR goodness, with time to spare, stopping these stutters from other machines and delivering a pretty solid performance, with some dips to low 50s and high 30s again in the cutscenes, but these are not as regular as before and do not distract greatly from play. Again, the same cutscene stresses the GPU here also. As it stands, if you have the machine of this spec, so around a TAR 290, 280 or a GTX 970 or better, it is still the best option than both consoles and can be picked up for around £15 or $25 on a PC legitimate key site, so it's worth it. It certainly performs better with all effects now instated, although these were mostly added back within the first week of its release. It performs far closer to expectations, but does highlight one of the biggest gaps so far in performance between now-gen machines and PC, and is a stark contrast on its RAM usage compared to another now-gen machine but totally developed for PC, Mad Max, that I reviewed recently, which has a difference with the highest quality textures never using any more than 2 gig, and here they're sucking up 4 gig and more quite easily. With the engine now pretty much laid to rest, its replacement should not be such a large consumer. If you have a machine weaker than these entry levels or medium level machines, then that is not simply the case. Both consoles outperform these machines or equal them still, and although the options and tweaks help, in my opinion, turning off nice features like the DOF with a superb confusion focal zone bokeh, per object motion blur and even anti-aliasing is too much of a sacrifice in delivering a presentation that starts to exceed console levels but feels far less smooth due to this. The 30 FPS cap is now much better and doesn't have this stuttering and juddering around, but you can always flick it into the driver model anyway. If you have the AMD machine, like I say, it's around the same level of the PS4. I prefer the high quality textures from this point, because you do spend a lot of the time gazing around at the beauty of this game, and it can distract a little with some of the lower quality mipmaps being used on close-up textures. But again, it's horses for courses. If you've got a decent PC, like I say, and you've got the money to spare, this is certainly a game that's enjoyable, and it's certainly not going to ruin your experience now, so long as your expectations are in check. Like I say, my GTX 970 machine is not running this at a locked 60 FPS. Be aware, this is still an Unreal 3 engine game, and its performance hindrances are still evident, no matter the hard work that Rocksteady have done. I do not think any more can and will be done to this. The level is at now as a reflection of how much the team have had to work to achieve this level of performance, as well as it does on consoles, and the larger disparity in hardware, API and development methods shows here that for PC, as always been the case, brute force helps. But at least if you were holding out picking up a console or PC release, you should now have a much better view and informed opinion to make on what and if you want to swoop back into Gotham one last time. Just bring your raincoat, as that particle rain never subsides. As always, I hope you guys and girls enjoyed this. If so, please leave a thumbs up. I really appreciate each and every one of you that does. If you like my content, then please stick around and see what I've got coming up very soon, and I'll make sure that I keep you entertained and informed. You guys and girls take care, and I'll see you very soon on the next one.
Nothing hurts like losing one of the family, knowing that there is no one to blame but yourself.
That radius increased by 1,000%.
You're out of time. I'm letting you leave now.
It's what you taught me. Do the right thing. That's all that matters.
Master Bruce, I implore you. You must get out of there.
Goodbye, Alfred.